You got to be careful about those deer ticks out there now that the weather's warmer. And you're kind of running around, with your shorts on, and all of a sudden you get bit, and it can be very dangerous for you. Lyme disease is not a good thing, and Lane Poor is my guest tonight. He's an advocate for better treatment for Lyme disease, better funding for Lyme disease prevention, and he has his own story because he's a victim of Lyme disease. He's my guest tonight. How are you? My state of mind is here, your state of mind is there, and we get going. It's a pleasure to have you aboard. Update, by the way, from last night's program, and we talked to the folks who advocate for the sub-minimum wage for waiters and waitresses to rise. There is a House Labor Committee hearing going on as we record this program in the late afternoon on this Tuesday evening. And the rumor is that a $1 an hour increase is kind of the deal that the House Labor is about to put forth. Most likely the Senate would pass that. Don't know what the governor will do, but my guess is she would sign it. And restaurateurs all throughout Rhode Island are going to really feel the pinch. I just had a conversation on the radio with them last half hour here, and they're very concerned about their businesses. We'll try to examine that further if we have time without quick passage over the next day or two. So there's the update. Let's go to the rundown and talk about some things that are happening here. Getting dangerous. Well, you know what? I theorized today on the radio that this would be the move that the Raimondo administration might make, and my prediction may have come true. Here's the headline from the Providence Journal today. The toll plan moving too fast for some. Eyewitness News give you some background from the hearing yesterday.
The House Finance Committee heard pros and cons on the infrastructure improvement plan a week after the Senate did. The Federal Highway Administration sent a letter to Alviti last month about roadworks. They never gave approval or feedback in the letter, but looked for more detail, including the exact location of tolls.
It would have a bad effect on the state's economy, and then there are probably some legal problems with it, again, depending on how it might be implemented.
We've made sure that the bills are created in a fashion that, if challenged, we will have a good response from the courts.
That's the DOT Director, Peter Alviti, right there, who also testified. This is radio audio from our recording of the the House Finance Committee meeting yesterday on this truck toll issue. Listen to the tone here.
We've been lucky so far. We've been lucky that these kinds of occurrences haven't resulted in injury or death. And we've managed to keep ahead of the curve. That's not going to be the case much longer.
Kind of get this doom and gloom type of worry. Well, just before we got onto our taping schedule today for the Tuesday program, WPRO Radio was reporting that there's some bridge in Cranston that is soon to be shut down due to safety worries. Timing is everything when it comes to this stuff, and my prediction is that we will have some kind of measure that way to try to reinforce the danger that the bridges are in while we try to ram this ill-conceived truck toll program down everybody's throat. So stay tuned tomorrow. We'll have plenty to say about that. In the meantime, and the governor's just been bad on this. In the meantime, she's been better on this one. So bad governor on the tolls, better governor on the charters. The headline from the Providence Journal, governor steps back into the charters. And what's important to recognize here is that the good governor, Gina Raimondo, is operating, forecasting that she will probably not sign legislation coming from the House and the Senate that would put a moratorium on charter school funding and create local control over what local charters can grow in a local town. The problem with that is that school committees and or town councils and school committees generally like the system the way it is and don't like the public school charter version. So to give it local control would stop the growth of charter schools and cheat a lot of people out of a different kind of public education. I agree that the funding formula has to be revisited, and that's natural after the growth of charter schools. But this notion that the locals ought to be making the call is just faulty thinking. We will have a debate on this on Friday scheduled, so take note of that. But the governor is not signing. What I'm worried about is whether she will veto. You can leave a bill unsigned and it gets passed by osmosis. Hey, nothing to say. That's the story with Frank Palin. He's the chairman of the Coventry Fire District, and sorry for cheating, I was looking at the time. I'm a little bit on the schedule tonight. It's just a mess in the Coventry Fire District. Here's Eyewitness News account after this headline, firestorm of protests.
Last Wednesday, a majority of voters decided to dissolve the Coventry Fire District instead of voting to approve a supplemental tax increase. The board didn't make any decisions on what to do with the district, but it did decide to hold another public workshop next Tuesday to get suggestions from residents on ways to save money to avoid dissolving the district.
I still believe that Mr. Palin made some poor choices bringing this district to bankruptcy, or on the brink of bankruptcy.
Palin appealed to the town council Monday night.
I personally do not believe we can save the district without a massive influx of cash this year and in the future.
Look, this guy was kind of rigged into becoming the chairman. He is a volunteer guy. He's tried to make some good decisions. He brought some fiscal austerity to the program. It hasn't worked. There's a dissolve vote that the constituents have made, and now he's just licking his wounds in a fetal position, not talking to the media because he's been too beat up by people who think he's done a poor job. It's unfortunate. You know what? There's no thankfulness when it comes to public service, and I don't think he's done a lot of things all too bad. So hopefully he keeps his chin up. In the meantime, guess what? Hillary's got to keep her chin up because Link Chafee's made a prediction.
We spent at least half of this interview talking about you running for president, of course, but we've been talking about Hillary Clinton. I've seen the polls, Governor, and you're dead last, maybe 1%. What's your plan to win the Democratic nomination?
Well, my premise has been that Secretary Clinton is not going to be the nominee. And if that's true, if the various votes for the war and ethical issues and wiffle-waffling on important issues such as fair trade catch up with her.
Link, the benefactor of Hillary's demise. It's all in Link world. And speaking of worlds, it is a crazy world out there. The deflate hearings are going on. Tom Brady had to testify. Headline real quick here. Tom Brady's Deflategate appeal hearing underway in New York. Don't you, when you see all this hoopla, look at this, walking in for the big hearings in New York. Do you ever think about all of this circus atmosphere that surrounds putting a needle in a football? It's crazy, isn't it? Your state of mind is important to us. 228-1886 is the telephone number. Let us know what you think. Email, Facebook post. Matt on a Facebook post says, remember when the president was the ultimate representation of the greatness of America? Yeah, I don't either. I don't know. Maybe Reagan, Matt. Maybe Reagan's the last one. Alrighty, we'll get the Lyme disease conversation in. By the way, just into our recording, the Senate Finance has approved the truck tolls. Not sure about the House. We'll keep you updated as we go. Stay tuned to Eyewitness News, too. Be right back for the Lyme disease conversation. You know, you hear a lot about being careful during the summer. After you hear from my next guest, you'll probably really be careful during the summer, not just the summertime. Take a look at this headline. School Talk focuses on Lyme awareness. Lane Poor calls himself a Lyme disease advocate. He actually knocked on our door here at our television studios while I was away, and Jessica Silva, my producer, met with him and said, yeah, get this guy in here because this is a really important conversation. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
The background, your background is you're a Newport-born, Rhode Island guy. You've been around all your life, or?
Well, Newport, yeah. I have some connections with Newport. I went to St. George's. I was actually born in Washington, D.C., raised country, came up here, pretty much stayed in Rhode Island. I love it up here. It's a great state.
Okay.
We do have a lot of deer. The estimated population right now is about 20 deer per square mile. Jamestown's running at about 60, and Block Island's at about 80.
I see them in my neighborhood on a sporadic basis.
Yeah.
Frequent / sporadic. I'll see them all the time, and then I won't see them for a while. But it's those deer that are
it's
the
a deer.
culprits.
The deer have been given actually a little bit of a bad shift. The deer become a blood meal for the adult ticks. When they're born in a nymphal stage, and they attach onto, once again, the bad guys are the white mice, but they also attach onto moles, voles. Saunderstown's got a real problem with chipmunks, and the little furry things are carrying around multiple infections. which when the nymphs bite, get their blood meal, goes into the gut of the nymph. They then can go out and bite a human being or a horse or a dog, and those bacteria go back into the human, the dog, the horse.
Right, now, you're not a doctor, but you,
No,
did,
I'm not
but
a
you
doctor.
did stay at the Holiday Inn Express last night, right? You know that joke? But you're a victim.
Very much.
You got bit when?
I got bit in 1983, and we know that I got at least 3 of the infections, if not more. It took about 17 years, or year 2000 or so, and I started having some neuropsychiatric challenges.
Meaning?
Anger, rage kind of thing, internal. I internalize it, some people externalize it. Fatigue, was beginning to get tired, just not really on. Did see a psychiatrist. We tried numbers of antidepressants, none of which worked, and they won't work if you have any of these tick-borne diseases. They just they don't. It doesn't happen. It's not happening. About 5 years after that, I came down with just incredible night sweats, aching neck. My neck was pulled over, compressed nerves in the back of in the cervical area. Ended up with Bell's palsy. My face was sagging. The cranial nerves can affect your hearing, your sense of balance, your memory. Cognitive functions can go out the window. One night I tried to put my laundry in the refrigerator. The tremendous amount of disconnects going on with your nerves. And I need to talk about the misdiagnoses. What's happening is that these nerves are getting, the neurons get the receptors sort of eaten off by the spirochetes, the Borrelia, and you don't get a signal going across that path. Obviously affects memory. In the case of ALS, it's affecting your breathing nerves. They're getting unplugged. You're swallowing. It looks like a lot of the dementias because you're losing connections in your brain to your memory.
Okay. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
So you got beat up pretty good here.
Yeah, brain swelling.
You know that you
crawling
got
across
bit.
the
You
floor.
know you got bit in '83.
Yeah. I may have been bitten subsequently, but
Do you remember being bitten?
Yes, I do. I went to a doctor and I had a tick in my armpit. I had an irritation, and I remember Dr. Rainville pulled it out and he said, "My God, that's a teeny tick," and they are teeny. They're babies.
But you kind of went, all right, it's out. I mean, there was any treatment for Lyme disease back then?
No, but there was
no antibiotic treatment. Nothing.
Nothing. It lay dormant 17 years.
So now you go through this whole thing, and the shrink's not working, the antidepressant's not working. You're all whacked. What happened? So you finally got diagnosed, yes?
I got diagnosed, and then the doctor, my doctor at the time, gave me 30 days of doxycycline. And I called her back after that, and she refused my phone calls.
All right, let's not get into that.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry.
You're here for a bigger purpose, are you not?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the bigger purpose?
I want people to understand that...
Yeah. Are you better?
I'm better.
Okay, how did you get better?
I got better, found a good doctor.
Okay.
Finally found a good doctor. It took a long time.
And what did the good doctor do?
Gave me antibiotics.
Okay.
Long term, year and a half.
Okay.
Also antimalarials, because one of the tick-borne diseases is sometimes called North American malaria. Mm-hmm. Very common to have that in the tick and to be infected with it.
Okay.
I'm probably 80-90% back now. I still suffer from fatigue. 2 of the bacteria keep cycling through at gentle levels. It's not harsh like it was in the beginning.
And what is the prognosis?
I'm better.
And getting better.
And
getting better and better and better.
And better and better and better.
And so you've taken this awful experience over the years, and you've become an advocate. You're in the schools, you're speaking about being careful and all that kind of stuff.
That and the legislature, I think it's very important. I wrote the proclamation for the Tick-Borne Disease Awareness Month that was passed in the Senate. important points in there. The reporting has been insufficient. We probably had 8,000 cases in Rhode Island
All right, hold
last
that
year.
thought, because I want to talk about the politics, the legislation, the
Okay.
advocacy, all that when we come back. Now that you understand Lane's story, we'll continue to stay with us.
According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Rhode Island has the second highest per capita rate of Lyme disease in the country, just behind Connecticut. We checked with the Rhode Island Health Department and found 723 cases were diagnosed in the state last year. But health officials tell us the number of Lyme disease cases is likely even higher and say they're making it a priority to get the resources needed to track the disease.
The more funding the health department has and the more time and energy we can devote to things, the more we can better understand every disease we have.
For most people, Lyme disease presents as a bullseye rash. Symptoms can include fever, headache, and joint pain.
And you know, I haven't had it, but I can tell you, I know it is not fun. In fact, you know, a friend of my daughter's picked it up last summer and wiped her out. But early diagnosis, antibiotics, and she's much better. So we've gotten better with this thing, right?
Yep.
All right, so Lane, if you just tuned in, is a victim of this Lyme disease thing. Got a tick bite as early as 1983 and really didn't get diagnosed till a handful of years ago, and is now, or most recently, you're on a course, a year and a half, 2 years course of antibiotics that's brought you back.
Yeah.
All right, so you've taken your bad experience and you've done positive things with it. You're in the schools, you're talking to people, you're trying to make them aware. You run around with these kits, which are really cool. You know, what is this kit that I have here that you've brought?
Well,
you give this to the kids?
We call this a detective kit. We give it to the kids. There's a little magnifying glass in it that you slide out. Take a look at the ticks.
Right, so you can see what you're dealing with.
We've got the 3 families of ticks that we have here in Rhode Island.
Unfortunately, I didn't. Jess, you want to look at? You want to show that or something? Just have with Lane hold it. Just hold it up to the camera right there.
All right.
So anyway, it's just another one of the examples of the work that you're doing out there, so people get more informed as to how this whole thing is, at least visualized. But you want to improve education and move legislation. In fact, that's what your business card says.
That's what I do.
So you're helping with education. Do you think the data on that report that was actually done last summer is accurate, or do you think it's a whole bunch more?
I think it's a whole bunch more, and actually the CDC agrees. They've taken, in August of 2013, the NIH did a really good study about how much Lyme we have in the states. And rather than 30,000 cases a year, they jumped it up to 312,000 times 10. That puts states like Massachusetts, if they take their surveyed numbers, multiply times 10, they probably got 55,000 cases a year. Here we're looking at least 8,000 cases a year.
What does your research tell you, and just your advocacy and just being a student of this, tell you we can do to prevent this, other than being careful about what gets on our skin? Is there anything we can do in the environment to lessen the potential for getting Lyme disease?
Unfortunately, I don't see anything in the near future that we can do about it. Monhegan Island off Maine killed all the deer, and that suppressed Lyme, but it's still there. We're not going to kill all the deer here, we know that.
Right.
Deer population in the last 10 years has doubled. We're now at about 20 deer per square mile. Keep your lawns mowed. Watch out for the tall grasses. The ticks love to crawl up to the ends of the grasses, and they just hang out there with their front feet waiting, questing.
Yeah. It was funny, I was playing golf last weekend.
Oh, golfers.
And
Thank you.
I was playing golf last weekend, and we were looking for a ball in some high grass, and someone said, I don't know if it's worth the tick, and I said, I don't think it is either, and it wasn't my ball anyway, so I said, okay, we're good, you know. So
I've met a lot of golfers who were having a lot of problems with arthritic knees.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons the deer population has exploded is every time we make a development, we make all these little cuts into the forest, and deer love forest edges. They don't like way inside the forest too much. There's not enough food. But wherever we've cut down trees, shrubs grow, little grasses grow, and that's where the ticks. I mean, that's where the deer go.
Okay. Legislatively, Department of Health.
Yep.
Are you bullish on what's going on here in the state, or you have a problem?
I have a problem. The reporting criteria is not good. Initially, when the Department of Health was surveying the reports from doctors, they would send somebody to the doctor's office, pull the files, talk to the doctor, talk to the patient. 1998, they reported 799 cases. In 2003, they reported 39 cases. They ran out of money for surveillance. That's a real problem. Another problem is that doctors don't really have a lot of time. Why can't we just take the doctor's report saying, look, this person has got Borrelia, he's got Babesia, he's got Bartonella. You don't need to send somebody out into the field to double check the doctor's work. We really don't. We really need to get that fear out of the hands of the doctors. They don't want to report it because they don't want to go through the hassle of being surveyed.
So they report that they got a patient with Lyme disease and they get surveyed?
Yep.
For what purposes?
In order, the Department of Health wants to confirm that that case is real. And they take up a lot of doctors' time doing that. Doctors have, I've talked to many doctors about this, and they don't want to talk about Lyme. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to report it.
Well, are they treating it?
Not very many. I know of one doctor in Rhode Island who publicly is treating aggressively, and I know of a few others that they're not saying that they're treating it.
Well, what will change that dynamic?
Well, I'm hopeful about the new Department of Health director, although she was tangled up in some politics early on. I'm not sure where that came from. I did get an email from her asking that we sit down and collaborate and start to really get our teeth into this
Oh, good.
thing.
So you've gotten some traction.
I've got some really good traction. I've got a lot of support in the legislature. Teresa Paiva-Weed knows who I am. Numbers of senators do. And I've been asked to actually submit 2 pieces of legislation to help the recognition of Lyme here.
In this session?
And hopefully in this session.
And,
yeah.
okay, so specifically, what do you want to accomplish?
First of all, I want to get the insurance straightened out. A lot of insurance companies are still working with the old criteria, denying prescriptions. It's a big trouble.
Okay.
It's that marginalized. I mean, granted, 4 out of 5 people take the doxy for 3 weeks. Yes, you'll do quite well. But it's that 1 out of every 5 that gets the multiple infections. The proclamation that I wrote that the Senate passed talks about tick-borne disease, plural, numbers of them, not just Lyme. I think one of the things we really need to shift is stop talking about just Lyme. When people say I have Lyme disease, I often say which ones, because there are multiple infections that come. It can affect your brain, your vision, your breathing.
Yeah, because
your
neurology is a vast world.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I get it. Well, listen. Why don't we do this? We're short on time. We've got to rock, but keep in touch with what's going on in the session. Maybe we'll get some DOH people in here and follow up. Seems like you're doing good work. I appreciate your advocacy. And I'm glad you're doing better.
Me too.
only took 20 years, right?
Yeah,
Plus.
exactly.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Dan.
Last word when we come back to it. By the way, the South Carolina governor made the move on the Confederate flag 2 days ago, and now their legislature is taking a look at it. How that church in Charleston recovers, we'll talk to a local pastor about that coming up on tomorrow's program. And there's so much going on, so fluid at Smithville. You need to stay tuned. See you on the radio at noon tomorrow on WPRO and back here tomorrow night.